Hey everybody, welcome to episode 22 of my podcast, Journaling Revelations, and I'm so happy to greet you. I want to ask you to please like and comment and share on all of these episodes so that I can reach more people, so we can satisfy the algorithm. Thank you for that. And today I want to talk to you about living in the moment. Living in the moment. And this episode is sort of a continuation of the last episode where my husband Oyama joined me, and we talked about how our primary response styles have affected our relationship. By primary response styles, I'm talking about how we naturally respond when we feel triggered emotionally or mentally, or when something feels emotionally threatening to us. It could be a person, it could be a situation, it could be something someone says. And we all have these response styles, and they're not all bad. There's good and there's or should I say there's healthy and there's unhealthy ways. Anything that is healthy done to the extreme can become unhealthy, pretty much. So you can kind of look at it that way, and I, in my coaching sessions, I definitely dive more deeply into those characteristics. But just to follow up on my primary response styles, which would be the flight freeze. So flight and then freeze sort of together response styles. And what I want you to remember is that all of our response styles are ways that our nervous system is set up to protect us. So they are when we go into self-protect mode, and some of us never come out of self-protect mode or very rarely come out of self-protect mode. So when we talk about the flight response styles, and you can go back and watch last episode to get more details about it, and I really hope you do that and recommend that you do that. But when you talk about a person with a primary flight response styles, you can think of it as these are the overperformers, the overperforming perfectionists. Let's let's call it like that, okay? And I call myself, my daughter, our oldest daughter coined me the recovering perfectionist, a recovering perfectionist. So I hope that you are also in recovery for overperforming and perfectionism, because it's really just a way of us trying to prove our worth and, overcompensating for not feeling like we are enough, okay, or worthy. And then the freeze response style is, when you talk about dissociation and living in a dissociative state, which is something that I really struggle with, because that's just the state that my nervous system is used to being in, just dissociative state. But the more I heal and the more mindfulness I have, the greater I am able to connect to the present, and live in the moment. And I wanted to talk about techniques to help us do that. And we call these techniques grounding. You may have heard this term. It's a mental health, emotional intelligence term called grounding. And basically what grounding is a way to bring ourselves back into the present moment, because so often we are either in a mental flashback or an emotional flashback. We might not even have a memory attached to it, but we are in that state where we're either stuck in the past, or we have projected our fears and anxieties into the future. So grounding is a way to help us to connect to the present and live in and enjoy the moment better. And I'm sure that's something that we all want to do. There are many grounding techniques. You can Google and you can find a list. And I also have a list here in my guided journal, Overflow, a 100-day self-discovery journal. And I have a list of grounding techniques here for people who are journaling. And sometimes when you're journaling, it can feel overwhelming, and you can be overwhelmed by painful thoughts or emotions. And so sometimes if you need to take a break, these are some grounding techniques you can use. And then I want to share with you, I'll read through the list, and then I want to share with you how I use journaling and how you can use journaling as a grounding tool as well. Because I realized after last episode, Yam and I were having such a good time that I never shared with you a journal, an example from my journal. And since the podcast is called Journaling Revelations, I try to do that in every episode. So I will do that this episode. So here's what I wrote in my journal. Some emotional grounding techniques. Try taking several slow, deep breaths. You can listen to soothing music. You can take a short walk around the block or in the park. You can dance and or sing along to your favorite song. You can focus on something else, like something that you can touch. Like maybe focus on your grocery list. Focus on putting together your grocery list. Focus on putting together your to-do list. Watch your favorite TV show. Pray and meditate. Have a good cry. Call a supportive friend and have a good laugh. And focus on your 5 senses, right? So, what you can see, what you can smell, what you can hear, what you can touch, and what you can taste, because that brings you into the physical moment, into the physical space. So along that line, I want to kind of show you how I do that with journaling when we talk about focusing on our 5 senses. So here's one, because I tend to live in freeze mode and also flight mode a lot, in that I'm getting better at this, but my mind is so used to when a painful thought or memory or traumatic memory from the past comes up, it automatically switches to something else. So that's all, that's the flight of it. That's the flight. Flight is not, it may show up physically as it did in my relationship with Yam, where I would physically leave the relationship, but first it was an emotional and mental response, and then it shows up in the physical. So that flight is also something that I have to consciously, intentionally, sometimes even force myself to stay with the emotion, stay with the memory, and just let myself move through it instead of running away from it, because whatever you run from chases you, and it continues to chase you until you face it. So here's a way to use your journal to ground you into the moment when you're feeling overwhelmed or anxious or just dissociated, sort of in a fog. Here's a way that I bring myself back into the present moment. Here's what I wrote. I'm sitting here on the corner of the sectional, my favorite spot. So I'm noticing where I'm sitting. I hear Yam in the kitchen crunching up tortilla chips for his taco salad. So what I'm hearing, I feel a slightly cool breeze on my arms because the temperature had dropped outside and it made it cooler in the house. I feel the soreness in my thumb from writing so much lately, and I write a lot, y'all. So had a little bit of soreness in my thumb that I could feel, I could focus on, because there are so many days that I go through the day and I'm not even aware of where I feel achiness or pain in my body because I'm so dissociated. It says, I hear the background music of one of my favorite TV shows, and I hear the actor's dialogue. So all of this I could hear in the background as I'm writing. And then I wrote, I see my water cup and green straw on the floor next to my feet. Here's the amazing thing about this. By the time I got to the fourth thing that I wrote about feeling the soreness in my thumb, I spontaneously took a deep breath. It was nothing that I even had to think about. So already my nervous system was relaxing. It was starting to feel some relief just from me focusing on what I could hear and feel and see and smell around me. By the time I got to the last thing that I wrote about seeing my water cup and green straw on the floor next to my feet, I took an even deeper breath. And not only was I more focused in the moment and in the present, but my shoulders were more relaxed. Have you ever stopped and realized that your shoulders were up here around your ears and you didn't even realize it? Because we live our lives and we go throughout our days without even realizing these things because we're so disconnected from what is happening in the present moment, even within us. And how many times I think about how many times I have realized how shallow my breathing has been, and I've needed to just stop and take a few deep breaths. And all of this is scientifically backed up, and there's a polyvagal theory and all of these things to teach you about things. There's clinical evidence for why journaling, particularly handwriting, works and the things that it does for us internally, and I won't get into all of that here. But there's also, when I think about taking deep breaths, I think about the scripture that says that in Genesis, that says that, God had created, the human being, but it wasn't until God breathed his breath into the human being that human being became a living soul. A living soul. And I think next episode I'm going to talk more about that and ask about what is the condition of your soul. Okay, so we'll get more into that next week. But I just want to give you an example of how that type of writing, just writing about what you notice going on around you, caused me to automatically take deep breaths and relax my shoulders and sort of come out of that anxious, dissociated state. Okay? All right, that's it. That's all I got for this episode. I wanted to keep it short and sweet for you guys. And I have one announcement and then I will sign off here. I want to let the ladies know that next year's The Overflow Life Women's Empowerment Conference is going to be in person. This year, our first one, we did it virtually, but next year's is going to be in person here in my hometown. We're going to be in a little suburb of Toledo, Ohio called Sylvania, and I really am excited about it. I know it's going to be such an empowering and encouraging session for the women who come. And so I just want to make you aware of it and invite you to it. And it is going to be on a Friday and Saturday, Friday, May 16th and Saturday, May 17th here in Ohio. So if you want more information, sign up for my newsletter. I'll put the link in the description and you can get more information. And I will tell you that seating is going to be limited. So once I plan to release all the registration information within the next month, and I would recommend that you register early. We are going to have some early bird specials for you, some things, some exciting things that you have a chance to receive as a result of registering early. So with that said, I love you all. I will see you shortly, and thank you once again.